If you have a compliance job interview coming up in 2026, here is the truth. The questions have changed. Hiring managers are no longer just asking about KYC or transaction monitoring, they're asking about AI, sanctions, virtual assets, the EU, AMLA, and how you think about risk in a world that is generally moving really fast. So today, I'll walk you through the top AML compliance job interview questions for 2026 based on what hiring managers are actually asking right now. Hi everyone, I'm Marco from FinCrime Agent and I worked in many financial crime prevention roles for the last 20 years. Before we begin, if you are preparing for interviews or trying to break into AML, you can take a structured path with my FinCrime Career Accelerator. It's designed to build real-world skills that hiring manager wants in 2026 and beyond. You will find the link in the description right below. And now we can jump right into today's video. Let's start with the updated risk-based approach question. So the expected question you will see in an interview is, can you explain the risk-based approach and give an example of how you applied it? So this question appears in nearly every AML interview list, and remember that FATF continues to call the risk-based approach a foundation of the AML framework. So what they want in 2026. Not theory, they want application. So keep your answer short and structured. These are some of the bullets you want to include when you answer this question. State what risk-based approach means in practical terms. Give a real example. Maybe you reassessed a customer's risk rating after some unusual activities or escalated a pattern that didn't fit their normal profile. And you want to end this answer to the question with some impact. So for example, cleaner alert, better start quality, improved monitoring threshold, and etc. Because that shows your critical thinking, which is something that a hiring manager are highly looking for in new candidates. Second question is on CDD and ongoing monitoring, now with the dynamic risk. So the expected question will be something like, how do you manage customer due diligence for higher risk customers? In 2026, they want to hear three things. The first one is foundations. For example, beneficial owner, nature purpose, source of funds, source of wealth. When are these needed? The second one is triggers, changes in activity, new jurisdiction, negative news. The third one is action, event-driven KYC reviews and clear documentation. Use relatable analogy. For example, I see the customer's profile as something allied, not a file we only revisit before an audit. This positions you as someone who understands ongoing risk, not just at the onboarding phase. Question number 3, SAR STR investigation question, which is always asked. So expect a question like, tell me about suspicious activities you identified and what you did. This is a behavioral test and a technical one at the same time. So use simple framework. The alert or red flag, what you have examined, history, counterparties, geographies, KYC, your judgment, was a SAR actually required, and the outcome. Because FATF and FAU globally emphasize the importance of quality SARs, not just volumes. FinCrime stats in 2024 highlighted that the issue of poor quality reporting, so makes it concrete, and it's important that you are actually reporting on meaningful risk and suspicious activities. The fourth question is around how you remain up to date. So expect a question say, how do you keep up with changing AML regulations? Since the publication of the EU single rulebook and establishment of the AMLA, hiring managers want to see maturity here. So a strong modern answer on this could be mention 2 or 3 credible sources like FATF, FCA updates, Europol reports, and add one recent trend that you are monitoring. For example, the AMLA supervisory proliferation financing, or maybe the focus on VASP compliance, just to mention a couple. You could even close this type of questions with an answer saying that I try to translate regulatory changes into what they mean for actual controls in the business. So remain short, relevant, and modern. The fifth questions I've listed is around AI and data, something that is going to be almost guaranteed in 2026. So expect a question like, what experience do you have with data or AI in AML? And these appear in almost every 2024-2025 recruitment trends report from Morgan Kingley, Barclay Simpson, and Deloitte, which I went through. So they don't expect you to be an engineer, they expect awareness. So your answer should include a tool that you've used, perhaps dashboarding, case management, sanction screening, and if you're new to this business, at least learn a few names from providers that operate across those domains. The opportunity, so reducing false positive, better prioritization, stronger investigation, and again, if you know of some great results from one specific provider, for example about false positive reduction, keep that in mind and bring it into your meeting. The control side, and here we talk about governance, documentation, explainability, human oversight, and you can further expand about talking on the importance of those elements: governance, documentation, explainability, human oversight, as we just said, in light of heavier adoption of technology that is coming in the next year. And one bonus point here is position yourself as someone who is well informed and not afraid about the technology. You don't want to come across as someone who's going to create problems when the institution is going to implement new technology, as this is a very dynamic process. Number 6, a question on regulatory changes. So short but very important. This is probably applicable to most ML compliance role, and expect a question like, how do recent regulatory developments affect this role? And keep this concise. AMLA and single rulebook, more harmonization, stricter supervision, more focus on outcome over paperwork. Crypto and VASP, so more travel rule compliance, more emphasis on tracing and sanctions exposure. The sanctions volatility here due to geopolitical events, so hiring manager wants people who understand fast evolving sanctions risk. And with these 3 topics in mind, you kind of kill 3 birds with one answer. You will mention a new expected AML regulations. By talking about crypto and VASP, you touch on something that is becoming more and more relevant to the industry, and then you also reach into the modern and fast changing link to geopolitics by mentioning the sanctions volatility bit. So this shows that you understand the broader context of the job and not just the job in its own. Now, one behavioral question is gonna definitely come up, and here is where most people lose points. Expect a question like, tell me about a time that you challenged a stakeholder. So describe a decision that you made under pressure. When you answer, use the classic STAR methodology, which stands for situation, task, action, and results. So keep it real, short, and grounded. But you also want to make it relatable. So you want to say something also like, sometimes you need to push back politely even when everyone is under commercial pressure. So hiring manager wants integrity and clarity, not just the perfect story. 8th question is around, how do you assess the effectiveness of AML control? These questions appears more often because regulators like FCA, EU, AMLA in the future must have shifted towards outcome-based supervision. So strong short answer points in here. Explain that you start with the risk assessment, look at metrics like alerts, quality, false positive, backlog level, SAR conversion, and then mention QA reviews, tuning, governance, and periodic testing, and finish with evidence. Controls must reflect actual behavior, not assumptions. We are almost there. Question number 9 is probably more applicable for compliance role with a more direct exposure to economic sanctions. So how do you manage sanctions-related risk? Sanctions are one of the hottest topics right now, and they will continue to be in the next year due to rapid geopolitical shift and increased enforcement. So strong short answer points in here are mention the screening, so names, payments, vessel, ownership chains, highlight monitoring triggers like new geographies or unexpected counterparties, and add that you follow updates from official sources like OFAC, EU, OFSI from the UK, and make it practical. In your answer, you want to also say something that while operational challenges are getting more and more mitigated with the use of the new technology that are, for example, reducing false positive, I am now looking more and more for behavioral red flags that suggest circumvention attempts, which could be an area that the technology is lacking still today. And finally, my last questions to list on this video is what would you do if you discovered a control gap? This is a favorite among hiring managers because it tests the judgment and integrity of the person in front of them. So strong short answer points in here are: say that you start by verifying the fact, is the gap real or a misunderstanding of the process? So then next you will need to escalate through the appropriate line. For example, a team leader, a money laundering reporting officer, governance committee. It depends, of course, from where you are. And then suggest documenting the issue clearly with example and risks. So finish with: I act quickly but proportionally and always within my remit. The hiring manager doesn't want you to just move around and jump the procedures just because you think it makes sense. So you always need to stick to the book. Now, how to prepare in a simple way. Your revision should center around 1. Knowledge, 2. Examples, 3. Reflection. If you build answers around those 3, you will sound strong in almost any interview. And if you want structured guidance, especially if you are trying to move from junior roles into financial investigation unit, sanctions, or risk assurance role, my FinCrime Career Accelerator goes step by step through real-world cases and role expectation. And again, you will find the link right down in the video description. So I hope this gives you a clear picture of what to expect in compliance job interview this year in 2026 and even beyond. But if you want to apply this structure, you'll stand out instantly, not because you memorize answers, but because you show that you understand the actual work. If you found this video helpful, remember to like, please, and make sure to subscribe for more insight into regulatory compliance and financial crime. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.